Hey guys, welcome back, 1776 or bust. So today we're going to be taking a look at this gun right here, which is the Caracal Enhanced F. So I actually just picked this up today and I've got some mixed feelings about the gun overall. Now keep in mind I haven't shot this gun. This is really just my initial impressions video to kind of go through some of the things that I found that I like and what I don't like. Obviously I haven't shot it, so until I shoot it I won't actually be able to do a final impression video. But at the same time, this is going to give me a good insight as to what I'm seeing, what are some of the things that I think are going to happen, and then ultimately after I shoot it, I'll have some final analysis in regards to whether or not I think this gun might be for you. So let's go to the table, let's take a look and kind of digest and dissect this gun as a whole. All right guys, welcome back to the table. On the table you see this amazing looking handgun that looks kind of cool. Now again, keep in mind, this is an initial impression video, so there isn't going to be a lot of answers here. There's going to be some things that I'm going to bring up that some people may like, some people may not like, but nonetheless, this is my perspective on my unboxing and my bringing this gun home and what I'm seeing as the initial overview. So first off, let's go through some of the niceties of the gun. First off, aesthetically, this is a pretty cool looking handgun. I really do like the way it looks. It has a lot of different features that make me think of other guns that I actually own or have owned. For example, this, if you just get rid of that, this really does resemble a lot of a P10C, in my opinion. Just the way the undercut is here, I do think it does have a lot of similarities with that handgun. Again, the slide is a very, very low fitting slide to the frame. One of the things that I did notice immediately is that it sits lower than probably 95% of all guns on the market. I don't even know what those 5% are that are lower than this, but this gun is extremely low to the hand. As a matter of fact, the tang of the gun sits very nicely in the webbing of your hand, and you can see that where my finger is right there, there is very little polymer showing, and you can see how low that gun really is. They did a very nice job cutting this out. They didn't add any unnecessary polymer. They actually thinned it out enough so that when your hand is fitting on this gun, you don't have to worry about your knuckle rubbing up on the polymer frame. So I think that's really cool. I like that feature because, again, the lower this gun is going to sit, the more comfortable it's going to ride in your hand, and hopefully the less recoil you're going to feel. Now, the slide design I think is really nice as well. First off, you get some slides that are just ridiculous, filled with this and that and everything else, grip zone here and all that other nonsense. But one of the things that I have to say about this is that the simplicity of this slide is very nice. You have some machining right there where it says the Enhanced F, and that's kind of cool. It's got a nice little touch to it. But other than that, there's nothing else on the slide. It's smooth to the touch. And again, it does look very square on top, which is kind of nice. But if you turn it down and you look down the actual slide, what you're going to notice is that it's actually beveled on the sides. So it's more rounded. So it's a little bit more of a rounded gun than a squarey block gun like, let's say, a Glock. Now, this is called the Enhanced F for a reason. First off, the F stands for full size. So this is definitely not necessarily going to be maybe the ideal carry gun. Could you carry it? Yeah, you can carry just about anything if you really put your mind to it. But at the same time, this may not be necessarily the smallest gun for you. You can see that I actually have room for actually another finger there. But I would say that that's actually a benefit because when your support hand wraps around on this gun, one of the things you're going to feel is just that real comfort there for this pinky. And it's going to nestle really nicely there. It's going to give you hopefully the ability to control the gun a little bit better when you're shooting it. And as you guys can see, there is a little fly flying around. Who the hell knows where it even came from? The mag release is, it's okay. This is a bit of a weird one because the mag release, as you can see, is very, very flush to the frame. As you turn the gun to the side, what you're also going to notice is that it actually protrudes a little bit more on this side. So if you're going to drop a magazine, you can't do it from the rear portion of the mag release. You actually have to move your thumb all the way to the front in order to drop that magazine. So just keep that in mind. It is also lefty friendly for the mag release. However, interestingly enough, it's not lefty friendly for the actual slide release, which again, I don't know why that is. I think they should have at least done that because if you're going to do this, well, why not that? I mean, how hard could that have been to just add something there? But again, I'm not an engineer. I have no idea. They come standard with two 18-round magazines. This, however, is a wonderful 10-round magazine. And nonetheless, the magazines are built very nicely. They do resemble a lot, and I should say they really do look like Mekgar mags, although it is not, stamped with anything from Italy. But you can see here it does say Caracal International UAE. So these are actually the older mags or the old magazines that used to be in the original version of this that came from the UAE. And interestingly enough, one of the weird factors is this thing right here. This is what holds the base plate on. I have no idea what that even is. maybe a spring or something like that, but I haven't taken the magazine down to find out. Again, the slide release is extremely easy to operate. It is fairly slick, very, very streamlined. As you can see, it doesn't protrude much, and it's very easy to operate. Apparently not, but you can see it just goes right back in the battery. So it doesn't take too much to do that. This model in particular has two different sight options. You can get their quick sight version, which has a kind of a milled piece that is attached to the slide. So your rear sight is actually here, and then there's the front sight here. I didn't really know how I felt about that. So I went with the basic 3-dot sight, and I'm glad I did. I got them with night sights. The night sights are very good. There are 3 white rings. There's 2 in the back, as you can see right there. And there's another white ring in the front, and it does show up very, very well. And they do glow considerably well. And so I think that's definitely a plus. You'll notice here that the trigger guard is very rounded. This is probably one of the more rounded trigger guards that I've seen, but I have to say it's extremely comfortable. There is a slight undercut here. It is not too dramatic, but at the same time, it gives you just enough ability to get your finger in there, and I should say comfortably. Also, because this is rounded, this area right here on the trigger guard is extremely flat. And again, that support hand, when it hits it, it's sitting on something flat, but extremely comfortable. And I have to say that's a nice fit. Some of the other positives is, again, you can see this portion being cut out here where the Picatinny rail is. So again, this is not a proprietary rail like some other handguns. This is actually, your 1913 rail. And you can see they've cut down some of the polymer here. So it gives it kind of a nice little sleek design and reduces some of the actual polymer as opposed to, like, let's say a Steyr, where you can see this big chunk of polymer here where you don't see it there. So, styling wise, it looks very nice, and it does. It feels nice and it looks very nice. Ergonomics, the gun is really good. I would say that when I first initially talked to Caracal, they were telling me that they were really almost like a cousin to the Steyr. I'm not sure if I believe that very much. Now, the reason why I say that is because the Steyr, even though it doesn't sit as low in my hand as this, the Steyr's undercut right here is much deeper. You may be able to tell that, but you can see this is deep, but this is much deeper. So your hand can actually fit lower into this area here, which in my opinion just makes it a little bit more comfortable. And again, you just get a little bit further underneath that handgun. The grip angle is sort of similar to a Steyr. The only thing I can say about that is that because this is undercut so much, there's a little bit more of a protrusion here. Whereas on the Caracal, because it's not as cut as much, the protrusion starts there as opposed to a little further down. So that's really the big difference in regards to grip angle and how it feels. One of the things I did notice and how this gun felt in my hand initially as soon as I picked it up was it does really resemble the feel of a Glock 19X or a Glock 17. As a matter of fact, to me, that's what it feels mostly like in regards to a comparison for a handgun. Albeit, I think this is more ergonomic and a little bit rounder, I should say much more rounder than a Glock. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I'm not necessarily big on. So first off, one of the things I'm noticing right out of the box is the texturing on the grip is a bit, I don't know, not too good. And what I mean by that is that there are 2 different types of textures on the side here. So you have this grip texture here, which I think is very good. I don't want to say it's fairly aggressive, but it's aggressive enough to give you a nice little bite on your hand. However, this is really smooth. And my only downside about that is that when you're carrying the gun and you're going to shoot it, it's good to have this with this texture for these fingers. But I really think they should have extended it up here. And here's why. Because when your support hand goes over there, there is a lot of real estate that your hand is going to connect with here. And I just think having a little bit more of an aggressive pattern of texturing on that just makes it feel a little bit more comfortable for your support hand so that you get a little bit more of a bite. But again, that's just my own opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one. Again, the texturing in the back of the grip, these are like blocks, I guess you could say, like squares, but they're not very pointy. They're not very grippy. They're almost like a very smooth textured square. And I think that might cause a bit of a problem, especially if your hand is wet. And in the front, it's sort of similar. Again, very, very similar to the rear. But we'll see. Once the gun gets shot, we'll know more if there's any kind of lateral movement or up and down movement that doesn't need to be there. One of the other things I did want to mention before I go into the next thing that I think is a really downside of this gun overall, the slide serrations are fantastic on this gun. They are probably some of the nicest, deepest serrations of any gun, and they are just sharp enough to get a good grip on, but not to hurt your little fingers. And at the same time, they're very, very user friendly. I mean, they're just really, really good slide serrations. So I don't suspect you're going to get any slipping of your slide when you're racking it back, which is a good thing. Takedown, very simple. Basically, all you got to do is pull these two little tabs, one here and one there, and they are connected underneath. Basically, all you do is pull down on them. The slide moves forward, and it comes right off. You don't have to pull triggers. You don't have to do anything. So I do like that. One of the other nicer features about this gun, too, is that it is a modular chassis system. So again, this is the serialized part right here. So at some point, maybe we'll have different grip modules we can get in colors, maybe sizes, that type of thing. And overall, that'll be pretty sweet. So I hope that happens very, very soon, but we'll see. In regards to the slide, this is where it gets a little weird. I have never seen a slide like this. I don't know what any of this is. I mean, I obviously know that's a striker, but I have no idea what the spring is. Maybe this is a drop safety in here. I have no idea, but it's pretty interesting. I've never seen anything like this before. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that. It's just interesting. Polymer guide rod, decent barrel, has a high shine on the feed ramp, but you know, other than that, it's not bad. Putting the gun back together, you just got to put it on the slide. And my guide rod went wrong for a second there. You put it back on the slide, it goes almost all the way to the back, and then you just do that and you're good to go. Now, let us talk about the one issue, the elephant in the room, so to speak. The elephant in the room on this gun is the trigger. So obviously we are in I guess, the golden age of polymer guns. I've said this before in other videos, and I'll say it again, that this is probably one of the best times for polymer handguns because there's so many choices on the market. The biggest downside I have found about this gun so far, just from my initial impression, is this trigger. Now, the shape of the trigger is pretty nice. I mean, I can't complain about that. You have your trigger safety that almost gets completely recessed into the trigger shoe. It just sticks out just a little bit, but it's not going to cause you necessarily discomfort, at least I hope not, when you're shooting it. The trigger is kind of a unique one. It's kind of like a hinged trigger. So you can see at the top that there's sort of a hinge in there, which is kind of interesting. But one of the things that I think is going to be an issue with this gun is just a length of travel on the trigger. So for example, I'm pushing in the safety right there, and you can see, put that up a little bit higher. That's how much that trigger is moving. And it's still moving right now, right about there. And you can see there's barely any daylight between the frame and that trigger shoe. Then it finally breaks. So it is an extremely long trigger. Here's your reset. So the reason why I laugh is because that is the longest reset of any gun I own. So the secondary shots, I'm not sure how they're going to be, especially if you're quick shooting. Again, I'll find out when I take it to the range, but you can see it is a lot of play in this trigger. I mean, it's you know, it's so disappointing because there's a lot to like about this gun. But this trigger right now, my initial impression of it is that it is not a very good one. That could change when it gets shot, but right now, for now, definitely not cool with the trigger. I just think it's a very, very long trigger. I think it's you know, it's not necessarily a metallic feeling grinding trigger. So it is fairly smooth on the take up, but the problem is that it's so long. And there's your wall to the back, if you even want to call it a wall, because it feels like the trigger just rolls and keeps on rolling and rolling until it finally breaks. The best thing I can describe it as is it's basically shooting a double action hammer fired handgun. So when you go to pull that trigger on the handgun, you keep pushing and pushing, you see that hammer coming back and further and further and further. And then all of a sudden you just feel that spring tension building up. And now you know the hammer's ready to fall, and then the hammer falls. So it is a very typical double action only type of feeling trigger. How is that going to play out? Again, only time will tell at the range. So that's kind of my quick initial overview. Lots of positives, some negatives, but nonetheless, it's kind of an interesting gun. Where is it going to fit in? How is it going to play out? That I still don't know, but I'm going to be interested to shoot this gun, and it is going to get shot. And once I do that, I will follow up with you guys and let you know what my final thoughts are on this pistol. So tell me what you think. If you have any experience with the Enhanced F series, whether it's the old model or now the USA made model, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, check them out, read up on them, learn about them. It's not necessarily the worst gun that I've ever had, but it does definitely have some weak points to it that I'd be interested to see how it plays out. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a great day. Again, the follow-up will be coming soon, and I hope you watch that as well. But nonetheless, guys, I hope you have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. It's a nice long weekend for everybody. Stay safe. And as always, freedom is never free.